Aloha mai kako, everyone. Welcome to the Moana Nui podcast tonight, October 7th. We are excited to be back in the building. Well, I am excited to be back in the building. Um, I'm just getting off a much needed vacation at home in Hawaii. And now I'm back in action and just kind of trying to get back into my routine. Tonight, Dana will not be joining us. She has another commitment, celebrating a wonderful happy birthday to one of our honored guests, Alan Z, who's been a guest here on the podcast. And so, happy birthday to Alan from all of us here. Again, my name is Moana McAdams, and I am the founder of the Moana Nui podcast. Aloha, J-Man. It's good to see you. Um, and I'm also the editor of the Wildcard Chronicles comic book series, writer, author, and creator of the Adventures of Nakoa and Nohea children's book series. We just had some awesome visits to some schools in Hawaii, and I have so much to say about that in another episode. So definitely be on the lookout for the channel. I have some content planned out to talk more about that in detail. But tonight we have a special guest. She's a former guest. She's been with us on the show before, and we're really excited to have her back as we got so much positive feedback from her original episode, helping creators on their social media and marketing strategies. Her name is Renee Cooper. She's a social butterfly that demands attention on both the digital and local scenes. She has experience communicating with tens of thousands of customers through social media, email, text, and customer-facing marketing activations, while also assisting with the daily operations of dynamic local organizations. Her mild-mannered day job is in the social media marketing industry. She's a social media manager and digital marketing strategist. And her goal is to inspire and build healthy marketing habits for any agency or client that she serves, stressing the importance of connecting digital, traditional, and experiential marketing together. These days, you need all of them. She also strives to encourage innovation in marketing technology while producing real, measurable, and impactful results for her customers and her clients. Renee is a shining media star on the weekends, engaging with Atlanta's fandom community through influential photos, videos, and local appearances. She supports multiple conventions in the Atlanta area, as well as artists by promoting consistent content, featuring best practices and paid social advertising strategies. So in this community, she wears 3 different hats as an event coordinator, a volunteer director for MomoCon and DragonCon, as well as her very own Peachy Maid Café. So as you can see, she has a lot of things behind her name, lots of experience that she's going to share with us tonight. And as always, we are happy to have her on the show. So let us welcome her. Hey, Renee.
Hey, thanks for having me. I know my bio is so long. I keep meaning to shorten it and send you an updated one. But thank you for reading.
It's all good. Maybe I can help you with some editing skills, practice my editing skills.
That'd be wonderful. Yeah, I say the same thing a lot. I think I sound like a commercial, but yeah.
Hey, that's what marketing is, right? I mean, at the end
It's
of the
a
day.
self-commercial. Yes. Just gonna do that real quick. Okay, I'm back.
Yes, absolutely. No worries.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, so J-Man saying she's amazing. She wears a lot of hats. Girl power. Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, it's so many hats. Maybe I should call them wigs. I wear a lot of wigs. So like I have different wigs for different occasions. I feel like I'm going to change it to wears a lot of wigs in the community.
Right. Yes, there you go. Way to differentiate yourself from the competition there. Yes. Awesome. Well, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, Renee was on the show. I believe it was season 1 or 2. I can't remember. I get lost, guys. I have so many seasons that I haven't even published yet. But our guests and our listeners really enjoyed it, especially the independent creators who are always looking for marketing help. I mean, we've talked to a lot of them, and marketing is one of the areas where they're just like, oh, I feel so uncomfortable in this space. But we're definitely grateful to have people like you to help us, do it in a way that kind of makes sense and feels natural for people who may not be as comfortable.
Yeah, I'm really glad. Anything I try to do, and hopefully people don't look at my own social and be like, what is she talking about? But it does take a lot, and I am not a artist, so I would say that I spend all of the time figuring out what works and looking at people doing it really successfully and trying to maybe help fill in some gaps. And I do spend a lot of time, like a dumb amount of time doing that because it's my job, but also my passion. So when other people are like, what do I do? I'm like, oh, I've seen these things. Let me tell you, don't look at my social though. Look at someone else's to know like what to do long term. But it's hard. It is definitely it's very time consuming and like high touch to market your own brand and your product.
Yeah, so that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. So for someone who not just markets, things for yourself, but also for your clients, what do you think is the biggest? Is there something that differentiates how you approach it, whether you be like, indie creator versus like, a more corporate organization that has a different, I guess, level of resources and that kind of thing? What would you say?
Yeah, so I would say first and foremost that the biggest thing that like creators, like indie creators, people who make content, who make art, who sing, who have something kind of artistic to show, are at a huge advantage right now. Like huge advantage because that's what people want to consume anywhere they are on social media, on YouTube, on Netflix, Hulu, everywhere, radio. All of that is art. And so I think what people forget is, especially now, while there is strategy and things that go behind why you create and why you put things out there the way you do, it really all comes back to what is the like visual or audio thing that we are consuming to help us either remember a brand that may not be so visual or to engage or buy things like that. So as you know, working in corporate spaces or in government agencies, I was so happy when we had graphic designers. Like I think through my journey, I took them. I didn't take them for granted, but I started to realize as social is a big deal. That is a really big deal for a lot of clients, especially if they have kind of a boring product or you're selling a service. Right. When I was in retail, I had a phone and I would take pictures. I know I've told these stories millions of times. I would take pictures of everything. I'd post them online. We didn't need a lot of like frills. It was just like, you want this? Come buy this. It's right here. Here's a picture of it. And then we'd, write a little bit about it, price comparison, stuff like that. When I went into the agency world, we're having to sell like frozen pizzas. And so a frozen pizza is a frozen pizza. You either want it or you don't want it. And there's lots of brands. So how do we make this frozen pizza brand fun? How do we make this fish food interesting or colorful so that people would actually want to purchase it? And it came down to, a mix of using a graphic designer to create these engaging images or using images of people who already had really great aquariums or really great, who are taking their own pictures, influencers, as we can call them, or content creators, or just hobbyists, and using those pictures to garnish like, hey, here's a nice healthy aquarium in this beautiful space. Speaking of, if you want one, buy this product. So even if it's just photography, we all know that there's angles, there's good ways to make sure you're taking a good photo. And you may not be a photographer, you may be a fashion designer with bad photo skills. So you need to work together with a photographer to make sure you have good pictures, or an editor to make sure you have good pictures. You may be an artist, like you draw, but you may really hate editing, but you want to make sure you have good videos. You're gonna have to learn, you're gonna have to work with somebody. But regardless, you already have that starting point that people are looking for. And if you can tie that into some anything that's like more boring, I guess, you can, or, you know, present your services to other people saying like, hey, I know how to draw this, or I know how to create these graphics, and I see a big need in the legal community or the healthcare community. You could be selling your services, or at least presenting in a way that people may find you. And that could be a nice steady income or a side income that can come from that. So that is really the biggest difference. And where I'm at right now, I can tell you that I'm not a graphic designer. I do my best with Canva, but I would never claim that I am a graphic designer. I am a Canva specialist. I don't know, a Canva expert. I'll call a Canva expert. And but there are certain details of things like creating a brand logo, creating branding, knowing how colors work together. I do not know how to do that, and I've had to outsource that to you know, as close to my community as I could. People who I knew did good work that I could say, please help with this, so that I don't ever have to worry if my orange is the same orange, or my blue is the right blue, or retrace this logo over and over again, or what font I'm supposed to use. I will always know how, like, where my foundation is, and go back to that. So, and then it's just kind of recreating over and over again that storytelling for the company. But yep, I'd say artists are at a huge advantage right now. Content creators are at a huge advantage right now. It's just, again, finding a way now to, like, I hate saying market, but like market those skills, or be consistent and in front of the people you want to pay you more money.
Gotcha. No, yeah, I really love how you talked about how you can use the skills that you're already doing in the indie creative community and apply them to, you know, like corporate America. And that you brought up a really good one, which is the legal community, which to me is boring. Everybody's like, oh God, legal, you know, such a negative.
Yeah, that's it. That's where I'm at right now. I actually, so I currently, since May, started as a director of marketing at a law firm here in Atlanta. And they have lots of really long, probably very informative, but like boring long form blog content. And we are from like years ago, which some of it is still very, it's usable today, but I mean, no one's reading long blogs like that. And they're just not. So like, how do we take this information and make it digestible in where we are right now, while also keeping clients, you know, keeping clients' information kind of like confidential, and or, you know, certain cases, you know, you can't discuss. Also showing that you're a professional, but staying front of mind of a lot of people. So it's definitely a, you know, a balancing act. And I'm learning about law at the same time I'm trying to, you know, see these things in action and draw them, you know, make them something that people actually want to learn more about, in also a field that's very saturated. I mean, you can, you know, 401 Payne, Motley and Associates, everybody knows all of these like top brand ones who've been advertising for years on TV, on billboards, everywhere. So how do we maintain our consistency and get our face and our, you know, brand out there for something that, you know, we have great clients, we've had great clients, but how do we make sure that we stay consistent and we are on top of mind when people are thinking about that need? So I went from healthcare to law, two things I have no idea about, but I know how to try to make something pretty. So that is, you know, I've been having a good time being informed and getting other people informed too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what, you know, good marketing is how to take something and make it look more engaging and more attractive to folks. And also, you know, you brought up about how do you differentiate yourself from like the bigger firms. And I think for indie creatives, that's another way to kind of think of things, you know, when they're approaching their own branding and presence, is like, you know, because a lot of people are like, oh, Marvel and DC, and, you know, they dominate the market, but there's, you know, still there's room for, you know, other people to come in and try new, more innovative ways because they are smaller and don't necessarily have like, I guess you would say, the corporate or bureaucratic red tape that sometimes it takes when you're trying to like put new initiatives into, an entity that's been doing things a certain way for so long.
Yeah, and that could be a whole roundtable panel discussion that I don't know that I would be on. Maybe my boyfriend or like other like deep comic book nerds who have like followed like how DC Marvel have worked. But I'll tell you that I do not read comic books. I do read manga. I'm not gonna say where. Some of them I'm gonna say that I read it legitimately, but sometimes I don't. But what I also like reading are like webtoons on Instagram. So I don't have like a webtoons account because I have things I got to do and I know I'll get sucked in. But there are certain people who will update different their own comics on Instagram. I mean, webtoons is great. People should also support webtoons, support people's Patreon, things like that, because these are brand new stories that aren't, like you said, within the limitations of, well, we got to make sure Batman doesn't blah, blah, blah. Like, no, like you can do, people are doing whatever they want with whoever they want. Their own characters, not people that are, don't want Disney and Marvel after them. But I find that fascinating because, again, while comic books have evolved and there's always more stories that could be told, like there are very long-standing characters and concepts, but there's so much new stuff out there that people are using their platforms to just create and maintain. And there's a lot of great like subscription services, a lot of places that people can sign up where they're crowdfunding their passion, or they're just doing their passion in the middle of amongst doing their actual job, which is really wonderful to see that. Not everybody can do that, but I think that there's been a good enough setup across the internet that people can get paid doing what they love doing without limitations from big corporations. And if they decide to move towards that, they can. And hopefully look at those contracts and plan for a future of who knows how we're going to consume media. But I think it's very fortunate to see that. Like our friend Marcus Williams, he doesn't even put out full comics. He just puts out character designs and writes a story about them. And he's not the only one, but he's first of mine. And now I've like written 6 fanfics in my head just based off of these images that people post. So I'm like, all right, well, thanks for initiating that. And, it may or may not ever come to fruition, but it's still a way to kind of like give me that creative and fandom endorphins. So, and I love to support whenever I can. I don't know if I could buy a print from him just yet, but, sharing, talking about people's stuff is always a good, if you can't do anything, you can give them free publicity and you can bring them up and things like that. So, there's so many options. And I think that maybe what concerns and scares people is that there are so many options. Like, do you post on Instagram, or do you put it on TikTok or Tumblr or Webtoons or, what is it? Tapas, there's so many places. Where do you put your podcast? Do you put it on Google? Do you make sure it's here? But I would say just start where you want to start and then branch out as you are able to find spaces that you can kind of automate those things to, or you feel more comfortable once you got one platform or a couple platforms under control. Like, well, let me just reach out and see what I can do that's not going to stress me out and have things on this particular platform. But it's okay to just have an Instagram and a website and an email list. Like, that's fine. No, like if that's where people have to consume your content, that is where they will go to consume your content. Right. As long as you have somewhere that you can kind of have a like free-ish space for people to see regular updates and you're in front of the masses, I think that's beneficial and helpful.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's great advice. So when I've talked to, some creators in terms of like leveraging webtoons, or doing like small Instagram stories where they break up their comic and things like that. Clearly a lot of people have been successful at doing that. One person who comes to mind is Newton Lilavois. His comic book series Crescent City Monsters actually started as a webtoon, and he's now, I can't remember what issue he's on now, 5 I think, and he's raised a lot of money on Kickstarter. But what folks might not see is that, when he was at doing his webtoon, like maybe there was things that he was doing for free. And that seems to be a concern, like, that folks are hesitant to leverage something like Instagram to put their comic out there without getting like that immediate, return for money. What are your thoughts, like, to help folks to kind of overcome that obstacle, or, that kind of line of thinking?
Yeah, it's the age-old saying, you have to spend money to make money, or now it's you have to give some sort of freebie to get that return. So but nobody's going to know that you are doing the thing unless you show them that you are doing the thing. So you have to show them why they need to give you money. If you heard of any other brand, a clothing brand, let's just say, and you just heard about them, you didn't see their clothes, you didn't know that other people like had worn them, you just heard about it, it's less likely that you will pay attention. But if you see it on someone, or you start seeing ads for it, you start seeing it across different spaces, then you'll know, okay, I like this, I like the way it fits, I like the way it looks on these people who look like me, and that's great. What that brand probably had to do in this day and age is give free clothes to people, or very cheap clothes to people, and or have someone they know model it, so that that's their time and energy that's probably not really getting paid for. So either they're giving it away or having to do it themselves, take these really nice pictures, pay for the website, pay for the e-commerce, all that sort of stuff has to be put out ahead of time. Same as if you're running a restaurant, people aren't just going to give you money for food they haven't eaten. Right. So the same kind of has to go with art. You can be very strategic with it. You don't have to, if you don't think you can print an entire book and hand it out to people on the street, which I would not recommend doing, maybe at a convention, but not on the street, or at, giving some free copies to a local comic book shop or bookshop or influencer, things like that. If you want to do that and print and all that, there's ways to do that on a pretty good budget. But what's mostly free is Instagram, a very cheap website, MailChimp for just an email list and a website, and taking a picture with your phone, which you pay for, but whatever, or scanning it and putting up. So there's always an expense somewhere. But right. the least expense, sometimes the least expensive way is the way to just go ahead and start. You don't have to give like your entire life to putting it up there, but you have to give enough to get people interested. Same thing with like merchandise, stickers, stuff like that. I've talked about how much I love all that stuff, but that's going to cost you. It may not be a lot. Stickers are like 60 cents a sticker. But if you make 100 of them and you give out all 100, you probably won't see 100 people come back to your site, but you may see 20. And then of those 20, you may see, a couple of them click through, give an email, and actually want to buy something. So it's always a numbers game. It's going to come down, but you do have to spend a little to get it back. I'm trying to think of like my own something like I know I've done with the Maid Cafe. I'm pretty sure we've like a couple of times we made some money, but for the most part, it kind of evened itself out. Because because it was a pop-up, we didn't have a lot of place to store things. We had to buy cups, we had to buy food, we had to buy our own outfits. We had to make sure, I got to make sure I'm wearing lashes for stuff. So lashes are expensive. That's like a $7 to $12 expense just right there to make sure I look presentable, to a person. And that takes time. Wigs, stuff like that. So putting that out there, even though it's like a presence thing, the space, thankfully we worked with Tony, Tony Cade, and we use his space. So he was very nice not to charge us for that. But usually you have to pay for a space to do stuff like that. And then we have our ticket sales coming in, but there was no one to know that this was going to be a good experience or not. So, we had to gauge like how much do we charge people, and if they came and have a terrible time, like would I feel bad about it? So, but those were learning experiences for the next time we would love to do an event like that, whether it's the same size or bigger. But yeah, a lot of it is just like, how can I give something so they can see that I care and this is something I want to do and I want to give them a good experience. And then, what's the possibility of that coming back to me? And in this case, it is still good advertising because, and I paid for social ads because I wanted to see more people. So, in the end, it's coming back to me because even though I'm not doing events, people still ask about them all the time. I'm known for doing them. I really love them, want to do them again. And people have asked for like, insight and how to do one for themselves. People trust that I can manage other people and events. So that is helpful for me, even if every event I do is not a maid cafe. And I've been able to, use those skills for literally every other part of my life. So even if you are doing something like learning how to edit your own TikTok video or on your phone or your own sequence that you want to put on social, even if it doesn't seem like you're going to go into a job of editing, like, if somebody were to come to you and ask your insight or pay you to do something small for them, like projects, you could do it because you have that ability. And as new things unfold, you have new abilities to show for it. So whether it's time or a little bit of money, you're going to have to put something out. You just need to, again, make your list and strategize so that, you're not breaking the bank for something that may not return immediately.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think that's sometimes a message that needs to be reinforced is that, like, if you want people to invest in what you're doing, you have to show what you have also invested, to make it what it is you want it to be. So definitely a good point. Yeah. All right. Lots of great tips. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I wanted to add, because we talked about this at the one of the last conventions I went to. Was that before Dragon? I can't even remember. Anyway, Ranger Stop.
Ranger Stop. Mm-hmm.
We had a really great panel, and I think it was Jabbar Fox who had mentioned, when people go into your DMs and want to collab with you, who've never met you before and probably have a company in China selling jewelry or whatever. Like, you don't have to chase all of that. But if somebody does come to you with and he said it best, so I'm going to try to paraphrase, but basically, if someone comes to you with something that you really care about and that you are aligned with, and you can create a good connection, and whether it's you're getting paid or you're getting, it's a mutual agreement, some sort of exposure from it that's planned out and maybe signed on a dotted line. Those are good to do. I recently had to turn down something because I wanted to do it. It was kind of like a pro-vaccine, create content sort of thing. But as I've kind of mentioned, I am not a content creator. I'm not gonna claim that I am. Like, I don't create content on the regular every single day, every single week for myself. So while I do have good selfies and I like to do pictures and videos sometimes, you really have to understand yourself and like what you can actually offer. And even though they were offering like a little stipend for what the project was, the people that reached out to me, I had a contract and everything, I had to turn it down because it just wasn't in my time frame. And that's fine, but it was important for me to know, like, okay, next time somebody comes at me with something like this, I need to really think about it, whether or not I can do that at the timeline that they're expecting, or discuss a different timeline. Right. So those are good. So keep those in mind. But like, the ones that are like, buy our jewelry for only shipping, which is somehow $25. Don't do those. Like, they have enough people to do it. You don't have to do it. If they're not sending you stuff for free, then like, don't worry about it.
Exactly. So tons of great tips. Thank you for sharing those. I I want to talk a little bit about MomoCon Winterfest in Atlanta. You are managing the media program for them. And as we all know, media is an important part of your marketing strategy and attracting that media attention. So how did you find yourself in the role as the director? And what's your favorite part about doing it?
Okay, so I love telling this story. So I don't remember the time, like the years, but in previous years, me and a group I was with called the Aficionados would do press. Like we went to conventions. I think 2009 was like my first one. And then some years later, we would go to conventions as press and we'd cover and talk to, if we could get access to guests, we would talk to guests. Otherwise, we talk to different cosplayers, attendees, see how they were enjoying it and just kind of get a feel for, the nerd culture there. And one year I met, well, actually the first year we went to MomoCon, we applied. There was some miscommunication about whether or not we were there. So I actually called Dan Carroll, who is currently and has been the media relations director for DragonCon, and he was doing MomoCon as well that for a few years. So I called him. We had a very good conversation, and he was like, "You know what? Go ahead and come on to the convention as as press, and we'll see what you can do." And he was very blown away by what the content that we were able to create and how personable we were, things like that. So a couple years later, MomoCon and DragonCon had a strategic partnership where they use a lot of the same resources. There are a lot of people who volunteer and direct for both, actually. And Dan was like, I can't continue doing media for both because it's kind of a big deal. Would you like the position? And I got a little sick to my stomach because I was very nervous, and this is a lot of responsibility because Dan is really cool. And so, but I said yes. And so that next year, he and I kind of co-directed, and I learned from him. I made some of my own rules and strategies and like processes. I had a really wonderful team. Some people came from Dan, from when Dan was there, and some people came in just because they knew me and wanted to help. And every year has just been a great learning experience of how to make it work and how to make sure that our convention is accessible to other people who have their own channels and media outlets, big and small. So I love that we are able to invite in people with press passes who can showcase what's happening from the different angles and different parts of the convention. We have people who are there and just do tabletop gaming, and that's what they cover, and people who cover the competitions, and people who cover the cosplay, and people who cover the different guests of different shows. So that's really exciting to see all that come together at the end and to watch people kind of work throughout the weekend. So I really love that. And I would say my best experience was I don't know. There's so many good ones, but it was really cool to have I know what it was. It was year one, and we had Cree Summers in the media room, and we took selfies, and then like the other guy who is in Codename Kids Next Door, I know his name, but I can't think right now. But there was like a Codename Kids Next Door reunion in the media room, and then one guy was like, Cree Summers was like, I don't understand. Was it TikTok? I think it was TikTok, and this guy was like, I know TikTok. And there's a picture of him like showing her how to TikTok. And I was just like, this is great. This is wonderful. She was so nice. And everybody who's come through the media room has been like super nice and chill, guests and press. So I would say that was one of the highlights. It's just kind of seeing a lot of my childhood faves come through. And we had Steven Universe guests, a whole bunch of them come at like the same time. And like, that was cool. So but yeah, it's awesome that people leave and let me know like we're doing a good job giving them access to these things and these people and these opportunities, and we're able to see people talking about it on online and through their channels even after the convention, and hopefully leading up to the convention. So that works really well. I hope one day I can be as good at media relations for my current job as I feel like I'm doing for conventions and MomoCon. But it's a work in progress, and I had big shoes to fill, and Dan was very helpful in being like that person that I kind of came up under.
That's awesome. Mentorship is an important component of all of this too.
Yes.
So when you're doing this media room, do you get to like select the people like that are coming in, and if so, like what is it that you're looking for when you're doing this, especially now as you're getting ready for Winterfest?
Yeah, so I probably fortunately, but also unfortunately, don't manage any of the guest relations. So that's a completely separate department, and so the people who are come through as like featured speakers, featured guests, they are either chosen or most of the time they will apply. So they or their agent will apply to be a guest for MomoCon, and then they'll go through and see like, okay, who's come before, who's like really popping right now, like they'll review it, and then they will accept them as guests for this year. And it's a lot of different, from my understanding, it's a lot of different variables because we don't want a year where like everybody is an anime sub person. Like we want to mix some nostalgia, some anime, some English, some comic creators, some gamers, things like that. Winterfest may be a little different just because it's a little bit smaller convention, but usually for our bigger ones, that's kind of what we try to do. We also diversify, so you'll see that there's been, I would feel like one of the more diverse list of guests across the board that have come through MomoCon in Atlanta, and like you didn't hear that from me, but I think it's pretty good. So they'll do that, and then they'll work with their schedule to see if they have time to come to the media room to be interviewed, and we usually give about 20-30 minutes time to interview. We do a press conference style room, and they just kind of ask questions to the guests. We set up so they can take some pictures with the guests in front of like a backdrop, and then we may, and then they leave, and we may not see them for the rest of the week in the room. Some people will come through multiple days, but they may leave, and then they're definitely invited to our press. Anyone who's press is invited to like go and see their panel. And we try to make accommodation sometimes if it's a full panel to make sure they can get some footage of that as well. But it's a good opportunity for people to come through. And if you're wondering for like media, basically if you apply and you're consistent and you have had your channels is going, and we will I review like everybody. For the most part, you're probably guaranteed to come as long as you're like a consistent, active channel that is discussing some sort of activity that happens at MomoCon. So, if you're really big into like side, like I would say like Star Trek and only Star Trek, I don't know if this is the con for you, but there's very few people that is like only that, like that's an example. It's not like a real thing, but like, I'm just saying. So, but if you have like usually people have like very diverse fandom topics that they talk about. Whew, that was hard to say. I was trying not to dig a hole for myself there.
No, that totally makes sense. So kind of a follow-on to that comment, for those who may not know anything about MomoCon and what that particular convention like kind of specializes in, what kinds of content or what can people look forward to at MomoCon?
Okay, so MomoCon is full of exhibitors, guests, celebrities, attendees who are into art, games, cosplay, panels, sci-fi, American animation, and anime. So it did start as Anime Otaku, which was on Georgia Tech 15, 16 years ago. And it has evolved. So if you're into anime, of course, we want you to come. If you're into music, if you're into nostalgia, old school, if you liked watching Nickelodeon as a child, like of course come out, and you will be able to see a lot of different guests who have been in these different types of media. So we try to, like I said, vary that up. Of course, cosplay is always wonderful at every convention, but of course, you do not have to cosplay.
Right.
Our exhibitor hall, our artist tables, and artist alley are huge. Gaming is huge at MomoCon. They have tens of thousands of dollars in competitions every year. And again, Winterfest may be a little different, but they usually will have like at least one $10,000 gaming tournament. Their tournaments are also not just video games, but tabletop as well as, fighting games. And I'm forgetting a whole genre of game right now, but like all of them. Probably one of the, we have historically had one of the biggest gaming floors in the Southeast.
Nice.
So with I think it's over 105,000 square feet of just gaming. Oh, PC. There's like console, PC, tabletop, all that. So, and we have people who will come through and maybe just play Werewolf and or Vampire the Masquerade all weekend long, or just be in the gaming area all weekend long. There's also a really cool dance with DJs that come through. This year we have guests like Caleb, is it Hales? Caleb Hiles, who is a YouTube personality who sings like English and American versions of different fandom songs. So there's a ton of different styles of people coming. Who else is coming this year? Steve Bloom is coming this year. So that's really big because Cowboy Bebop. If we're just into like the nostalgia aspect of it. We also have Billy West, which is really cool. I'd mentioned Nickelodeon. He's the voice of Fry and also was the voice of Doug from Nickelodeon.
Oh, okay.
And then super excited about, I hope I don't say her name incorrectly, but Anaris Q.
That's pretty.
And she was the voice of the black trainer in Pokemon. I know I should have had this listed. Gotcha. But she's also been in ReZero and is in My Hero Academia as the chick. I know this is going to be like the worst interview in talking about MomoCon, but
no.
And then Zeno Robinson, who's also does characters from My Hero, Young Justice, and Tokyo Avengers, the English voice actors for that. So both of them are people of color, and that's really exciting to me because we always need more of that. But of course, we also have some just like long-term nostalgia guests that are always going to bring, bring just really great fans and just really great communication with fans too. So yeah, and then there's still supposed to be more announced. So the event is in December this year. Usually it's Memorial Weekend in May, but because we've had to miss the last 2 years, this one will be December 16th, December 18th and 19th.
Yeah,
which is just a Saturday, Sunday, and it's the week before Christmas. But because shipping is so slow, really, you should just get everyone that you love a pass to MomoCon because experiences are really the best gift of all.
Absolutely, I totally support that for sure.
Ooh, my laptop is dying. Let me get my charger up really quick. So
okay, go ahead.
I'm gonna do a little like transition, but I'm gonna put my camera down a little bit.
Yeah, no worries. So yes, I definitely have to support that experiences are so much more valuable. My sister and I were kind of talking about this, while we were at home, and we were just really trying to create experiences for my niece and nephew who only get to go to Hawaii once a year at most, and trying to have them have those connections back to their their roots is really important, and creating experiences for them to do that. So,
and we're back now for real.
There she is.
Thank you. I'm so sorry. Preparation is very important, but also self-care after a long work day also
very, very true. Yes. And I have been on both sides of that coin on this podcast all the time. It is a balancing act, but it's all good. We're human and we just carry on. That's the main thing.
Yes, we are human.
Alrighty. So let's see. Now, we wanted to talk a little bit about one of your newer roles or your newer gigs that you're involved with is, did I say by night? Is that right?
ATL by night.
ATL by night?
Mhm.
Sorry, ATL by Night. Tell us a little bit about that. What's going on there, and what's got you going with that?
Yeah, so it is a Vampire the Masquerade tabletop stream that I was invited to. Oh my gosh, I think a year and a half ago. I'm pretty sure it was in April, and it's run by our storyteller's name is Ellie Collins. There's a whole group of different people who are playing vampires from Vampire the Masquerade. I am not much of a tabletopper. This is like my first. I've probably played D&D one time. I've been LARPing one time, and there's reasons why I've probably only done them one time. It was just not for me. But I was always looking for ways to stream more consistently, and I think sometimes when you're having trouble doing things on your own, it is good to I wouldn't call us a collab, but to be involved with other groups who do have that longevity, and especially if you're invited and it's something that you can do. Right. So um, because of actually a wig that I had, they were like, hey, you look like this NPC character that we've been kind of voicing, named Hexadecimal, who's an Nosferatu, and we would wonder if you're interested in being on the show. And I was just like, I mean, if I have the wig, I guess I have to. So I kind of learned what I could, and it's a lot of it's role playing. So it's like what they call like parlor LARPing sort of, but it's really cool. I feel like if you're familiar with, I had to learn about a lot of different clans of vampires really fast, but the Nosferatu is like the really creepy, like old school, like with the two front teeth vampire. And so the Nosferatu in the game are like not cute. I'm like, how do I be not cute? I don't know. And so I just like use really black makeup, which just makes me look really cool and alt. So it doesn't, I mean, it kind of helps, but like it's so, and I just say that the character wears makeup to hide like her flaws, whatever. But I've really enjoyed it because I've never really done a lot of acting or streaming that wasn't just me talking about stuff that I knew. And this takes a lot of sort of mental gymnastics and working and improv with different people. So I've really, really enjoyed it. This story is ridiculous. Like it's a bunch of vampires living in Atlanta, trying not to die and or kill other vampires. Like that's really kind of like the basis. And we are on season 6 right now.
Okay.
I have done 3 seasons, and I had to be out for one of the seasons, and we have a kind of evolving cast of people, but I'm trying to post more about what we do on my Twitter and use that, since I don't use Twitter a lot, as like, hey, check out ATL by Night, I'm a cute vampire girl. And because of this big like resurgence and like the BIPOC Vamp Day and like Black Fae Day and like all these like really cool like Black alt like it's not a trend because people have been doing it for a long time, but the increased spotlight on Black people doing alternative things is amazing. And I'm not saying that I'm anywhere near as cool as some of the other people who are doing some really cool stuff, but I do really love this as this group that I'm with and the storytelling aspect of it. And I think that it could be cool to encourage a lot of other people to do something very similar, or at least to watch it and support it and to see like, wow, this is some really crazy-ish going on with these vampires, and have a little bit of aspect of just a new type of story to listen to. A lot of people like Critical Role, stuff like that, but I'm like, hey, Black girl vampire out here too, so
yes,
check it out. But it's inclusive for a lot of different reasons as well. So yeah, I just want to give a shout out to that, and hopefully people will. You can watch it on Twitch on Tuesday every season, like while the season's on. It's on Tuesday on Twitch, and or you can watch it on YouTube, ATL by Night, and that's how I watched it to get caught up on everything that was going on. And I'm not gonna lie, I watched it on like 1.5 so that I could kind of like get through the story pretty quickly, but it was
Mm-hmm.
easy to follow for the most part. And I could always go back to like, wait, what just happened? And then I go back and listen. I'm like, wow, yep, that just happened. So yeah, that's a fun thing that I really enjoy doing. So I hope that people can check it out and support it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it sounds really cool, and it's I don't know what the word is. It's an area that like a lot of people. I mean, I love vampires and werewolves and any kinds of content, like whether it's
Mm,
a movie or a book that has to do with that particular genre. I'm like, oh, that's so cool.
yeah.
Um, so I think that's a great way, also, for people who are listening, is to kind of, I mean, at the core of marketing is getting your stuff in front of new audience, right?
Mhm.
And so while it may not be a comic specific, if you have a comic that deals with like the kinds of things that they're talking about, then you definitely need to be like, seeking out how you can be engaged with them too. So
Mhm.
as creatives, let's continue, to keep our eyes out and think outside the box when it comes to that stuff, because I mean, that's really how we find just about anything. Like, oh, somebody has to tell you about it, right? Like, if you don't know
Right.
about it, it's either you have to see an ad, somebody's
Mhm.
saying, hey, did you see this movie? Did you see this comic? Did you read this book? Did you, all of these things.
Right.
Um, that's how
Yeah,
we find out about
we
it.
don't
Yeah.
have and people are like, oh, it's so different than it was before, but like it's not. I mean, it's different because in a different place, because we are in
Right.
different places.
Yep.
Before we were all just on social and Netflix or Hulu, because Netflix doesn't show ads, thankfully, but like Hulu,
Oh my
we would
God.
watch actual TV and then they would show us ads on TV, and so we would see
Commercials.
when new
Yes.
movies are coming. Yeah, like YouTube, unless you're paying extra for it, you're going to see commercials. But like, I don't
Yes.
know how people who like have premium accounts know anything, because
Yeah,
like,
right.
like where are you? I was downtown and they were like, oh, there's a mimosa festival going on and there was a pizza festival. And I was like, what email list am I missing that I didn't
Right.
know that these things were happening today? So like, and I know I'm their target audience. I know that I
Mm-hmm.
am. But what I have seen interesting though is I don't really like it, but it's a thing, and it's it works, and it may be true, but what I'm gonna describe is when Shang-Chi was not out yet, I saw articles that were like, hey, there's not enough marketing for Shang-Chi, so we're gonna talk about ourselves. And I was like,
Yes.
okay, that's cool. But like, is there not a lot of marketing? And is this marketing? I think this is marketing. I think this
Yeah.
is the marketing. I have a suspicion that there's like a whole almost like anti-marketing group of people that are just marketers who are like, we have to make negative
Content.
like press about something to make sure
So
that it gets in front of people, or else
the
nobody's going to
buzz.
pay attention to it. If they were just
Yeah.
like, go see Shang-Chi, it's great, we would have been like, all right, I mean, we'll go see Shang-Chi. Like, people who are going to see. But if people are like, I can't believe no one's going to see Shang-Chi, then we're like, what? I'm definitely going to see, like,
It's the
so,
psychology.
right. I mean, first of all, go see Shang-Chi. It's amazing. I mean, I know you probably have, but like, I had to wait because DragonCon, but it's an
Yeah.
amazing movie. Probably one of the most beautiful Marvel movies I've ever seen. But yeah, like I kept seeing that, even like the negative press that was going around, and I won't dwell, but like going on around like Aquafina and different things, like that is still marketing. Like that is still a
Yep.
way to have the movie talked about. And honestly, um, I would not see the movie because of the Aquafina situation, because there are so many other people in it, and why would I take money and potential exposure away from an Asian American, an Asian focused movie? Like it doesn't make any sense. Like, yeah, I may be mad at one character, but like this is a much bigger deal. If people were mad at like someone in Black Panther and were like, don't see Black Panther, I'd be like, don't you spread that negativity around here. Like
Mm-hmm.
we're all going to see Black Panther because this is an important thing. So and I think that pops up with a lot of things. I see it with, everyone saw it with Star Wars. When the new movies came out, they were just like, ew, we hate it. And then everyone's like, no, we support it. And you're like, did that guy really hate it? Or did he just drop a little nugget of like discord? And then like everybody was like, now we have to talk about it. Again, it's not awful I mean, it's negative, but it's not bad marketing. So I just don't like seeing it work that direction. But it's something that I'm seeing happen all the time. Individuals use it too, where they're like, something terrible is happening to me. I have to share it with everybody. And you're like, I feel this and I need to comment. And that's going to create this, snowball effect of getting more engagement, and which makes the algorithm like you more and shows more of your stuff. So there's a lot of the social media aspect of marketing and things that I don't much care for. And again, that could be in a completely different panel, but it's important to see where you want to be on what side of the marketing you want to be. You can use some strategies to be very front facing, but it could be at a cost of, your like how people feel about you and like and some negative sentiment. Or you can choose to work a little bit harder and always be pushing like mostly positive or aligned things. And it may take a little bit longer for you to get that engagement because, happy people just engage a little bit less. So yeah.
Yeah.
Did I lose you too? Okay, you're still there.
No, I'm here. Sorry, I'm having issues with my camera.
Okay. It's a day. It's Thursday. It's almost Friday, yes. But like it's not Friday yet.
Absolutely. Okay, great. So let's see. It looks like we're on the hour. We had such a great conversation today. Is there anything that we missed that you definitely wanted folks to know about on what you got coming up? And get them excited about other things that you're doing?
Yeah. So we kind of talked in the beginning about how hard it is to get excited about law, but from the marketing side of it, I'm a little excited about this. So it's two things. One is when a lot of my background has been social media, but as I kind of just said, there's a lot of aspects of it that it's not the first part of the strategy I would put forward. But when I started my new job, the first thing I put in place or made sure to maintain was we started a podcast so that we could have like 15-ish minutes to actually talk about and get the perspective of the lawyers about what they do and different cases that we can talk about. And we had something consistent that we could publish. And from that 15 minutes, a lot of content was able to be like created and, kind of cut up so that we could share in a bunch of different places. So and I've never really been like a huge podcast follower, but I would recommend that if you are kind of at a place with a less artistic brand, consider a podcast. There are a lot of good resources out there of how to make a script and standardize it and get all the aspects that you need. It is not as hard as you would think. And you could do it from your phone if you really need to. You don't need to get a Blue Whale or whatever it's called, Blue Yeti immediately. But you can, because, you want to like up your game the more you do it. But also like Moana, so I wasn't talking to Moana because Moana knows how to do it. But like anyone else who is like considering, they're like, I've never thought about it. Try it. So we're on like episode 5, and we've just been talking about different cases and different types of law, and I've learned a lot from that. So especially if you're working for a client or something like that, that could be very helpful to getting that down. And even if there's not a video, you could put it on YouTube, and that's a YouTube. I'd actually recommend you definitely put it on YouTube because people on YouTube a lot. So I just wanted to share that because, some people just may not have, they may listen to a podcast and think like, whoa, this is really cool. And maybe not as easy, but it's actually not easy, but a really great strategy to kind of change up how you're doing things. And then on top of that, I just wanted to point out that event marketing is really important to my boss. And we are doing an event in October 30th in Atlanta. It's actually it's not kind of Atlanta. It's in South Fulton, which is a city in Atlanta. And it's a fall festival. We're going to be giving away a bunch of stuff. I've been working all week on trying to get our logo and on a bunch of different items. So that's been exciting, but also a little frustrating. But it's been a process. And so always, if you're going to do an event, have something like that. But if anybody is in the Atlanta area and is maybe not going to any other convention or something else that weekend, because I know that there's other stuff happening that weekend, or you live in the city of South Fulton, stop by the Dixon Firm, dixonfirm.com, DIXONFIRM.com is where it's going to be. And if you want to see me looking very corporate and putting together the corporateness, that's a great place to go. And I'm always happy to share things that we did to get to that point. And we may be giving away a Nintendo Switch. Yeah, I didn't think that was going to get as many people's attention, but
it will.
But if people do come out to the event, we're giving out free food. Like, we're paying for the food up to like 250 people, and we are raffling off a Nintendo Switch. So yeah, and maybe some MomoCon tickets. I think we're going to do that too. So anything to really get people out and show that we're really trying to like get in people's brains if they hopefully never need legal advice that we provide or legal coverage we provide. But if they know someone who does, or if they happen to, that we would be their top of mind person. So, or firm. But yeah, I think that kind of covers all that's up with me lately.
That's awesome. Wishing you luck on that. Reach out to Dana. We have a vendor that we use for the podcast, and he does like all kinds of different branding and products. And he's really good.
I will need this because the main drama that I will share the drama that happened today. So we received we ordered a bunch of cups, like blue mugs, which are very nice blue mugs. But our logo was all like puffy, and it didn't look like our actual logo because it was very small. We sent in the proofs. The proofs looked good. You know, the things were on back order, so we finally got them, and it was just like not up to par. And it's like frustrating because we have like 100 of these. It's not so frustrating because they'll fix it for free. Right. But the frustration comes in, like, you open this box, you're like, and like, you know, the record skips, and you're like, no, like, I know my boss is gonna hate these. We can't give these to anybody. So we also will have a whole bunch of free blue mugs, not at the event because we don't want to give those to our clients, but just in general, I'm going to find a way to off these to people. But that's just another price to pay. Like, you have to, like, I would love to know your recommendation, because it's good to make connections with people who are able to do that extra level of quality assurance, so that you don't feel like you've wasted time or money, or your reputation with people. That's very important. Mm-hmm. And I'm, like I said, this week is me nitpicking where my boss has nitpicked, which is not a bad thing, but it's me learning to pay attention to details that maybe Renee would be like, it's fine, I got my name on it, it's good. But you know, the Dixon Firm is like, no, when we give things out to people, we give it with the highest quality. There's no exceptions. So, but you work your way, you can work your way there, especially depending on who you work with. So don't be like, you got to be perfect all the time. But sometimes it is good to you know, have the resources and to really look at how you can continue to make your reputation good. He's been in the game longer than I've been marketing, so he knows his company and how he wants to present it, and I know how to do it. I just need to find the people to help support that too. So it's all fun. And you know, at the end of the day, we are kind of saving lives still. We're not saving lives, we're helping lives. But like, you know, you gotta put quality forward so that they know that you're legit too. So
absolutely. Great advice. Alrighty. Well, we want to say thank you so much for being a part of our podcast again. Always a pleasure to have you on. We always learn so much and find little nuggets that we can apply here and there, you know, for our own uses. And hopefully our listeners are taking notes, you know, as they have been listening to the show. If you guys have enjoyed this content tonight, please hit that share button and share it with your friends, through other people who want to learn about it. Or if you're just looking for fun things to do in Atlanta, or fun ways to apply creative marketing to your business or someone else that you know, please share this information with them, as, you know, we're out here. We're trying to do the best for all of our different brands. And I think when we keep an open learning mindset, it can only go up. So definitely thank you to Renee and the Peachy Maid Café. Be sure to check out MomoCon Atlanta Winterfest in December. Check out the Dixon Group's event to get a chance potentially to get some free tickets to MomoCon and maybe get a chance at that Switch. I know my nephew would be all about it. We were in Fun Factory trying to win it in the stupid game that sets you up every single time. But anyway, that's a whole other story. But thank you, everyone, for tuning back into the Moana Nui podcast. It is great to be back with you all. I had an amazing break, and I really needed it. Your girl needed that mental health care. She really, really needed it. So remember to keep that as part of your marketing strategy as well, because if you are not healthy, your business is not healthy. So there it is. Be sure to check in at 8:30. We have our replay of the DragonCon panel that we did called Breaking the Stigma. And that's another one about mental health and, finding that comfort in seeking out assistance and not trying to carry everything all on your own. Be sure to check it out. It was a great conversation, and I think you guys are going to enjoy it. But until then, I guess we will see you all next time. Please take care, be good to each other, and have a great rest of the week. See you later.
Bye.
So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If they won't tell it, we will.
If this the land of the free, it was a freedom then, when they annexed Hawaii and called it cedar lands, without any type of payment and no signing off. Called themselves a republic in 1894. 1.2 million acres overtaken from the native Hawaiians. When they resisted, the West retaliated in violence and erasure. The Hawaiian language is banned as part of colonialism's plan to expand.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Kaho'olawe as a part of their ongoing war with Asia. Used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. No regard for all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. We will.
So if you put Hawaii into perspective, well, Black and Asian history is interconnected. Considering the fight with the Pacific, then of course, versus Asia, they was treated as a middleman for war, but didn't let the Western colorism run its course, cause dark skin was a sign of dignity to core. The land was taken in the name of capitalism, when prior to it was an actual kingdom, clapped back at the system.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Kaho'olawe as a part of their ongoing war with Asia. Used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. No regard for all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. We will.